Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you, and I welcome you all to the current affairs classes. And let's get started with this particular session. Now, before starting, I would like to tell you a little bit about this particular session. So here we cover entire 1 week's current affairs, which are taken from Hindu, Indian Express, and PIB. In this particular session, we divide our entire session in prelims and mains oriented articles. Also, you can download the notes of this particular session from our Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube. Now let's get started. Okay, so first we are going to discuss those particular articles which are important for prelims examination, and this is week 4. So first articles that we are going to cover is the articles relevant for the prelims examination. Okay, now here first article that we have is understanding the double sun halo phenomenon. So what happened recently? There was this double sun halo that was observed in Ladakh region. Let's understand that what is this double sun halo, why it occurs, what are the conditions which are needed for this double sun halo. Because in the prelims examination, particularly in the science and technology aspect, such kind of things can be asked. Now, first of all, guys, you might have observed usually that there is this kind of a halo often that is observed around the sun. Now, often what happens in, or not often, in some peculiar circumstances, apart from this single halo, one more halo will be observed around the sun. And this, when there are these two halos, fine, two concentric circles are observed around the sun, it is called as the double sun halo phenomena. And recently in Ladakh, it was observed. Now, first of all, guys, usually when we talk about a single halo around the sun, it is formed at the angle of 22 degree. It is, when single halo is there, it is formed at the inclination or angle of 22 degree. But this one more additional halo that is formed, it is at 46 degree angle from the sun. So two halos you'll have, one at 22 degree and other at 46 degree. Now, first of all, when we talk about this particular halo, how this particular halo around the sun forms, it is formed when there are ice crystals, which are present in the cirrus clouds in the atmosphere. So in atmosphere there are the clouds, particularly cirrus clouds, and in these cirrus clouds there are ice particles, ice crystals. Now these ice crystals, they act like prisms. Which refract the light, which bend the light, and because of that, this particular halos are formed. Now, why these two halos are formed? Let's understand. First of all, when we talk about the usual halo that is often observed, it is called as inner halo at 22 degree. Now, this particular halo around the sun, is formed. Just a minute. Fine. So, when we talk about the first halo, around the sun, that is this one. Now, why this one halo is formed? So, this halo is formed when ice crystals in environment, or ice crystals, they are randomly oriented. So, when ice crystals are randomly oriented, so light will enter from one face and will exist through another face at a 60 degree angle, and it will lead to a halo. Now, often one more halo is formed, that is at the 46 degree. Now, why it will be formed? It will be formed when the ice crystals, they align horizontally with their flat faces parallel on the ground. So when the ice crystals are randomly oriented, randomly segregated, it will lead to the formation of first halo. But when there are certain ice crystals that are oriented, that are aligned horizontally with their flat faces on the surface, it will lead to one more halo. So this is something which is often observed. So one very important condition that needs to be there is that there should be ice crystals in environment. Without these ice crystals, such halo will not be formed. Moving on, next topic that we have here is streptococcal toxic shock syndrome. Now, recently what has happened, there was this STSS disease outbreaks that happened in Japan. So for prelims examination, health, we are going to see this particular article. Now, what has happened? Let's see first of all the context. So recently, what has happened? There are nearly more than 1,000 cases that have been reported, cases of streptococcal toxic shock syndrome. Now, basically, this is a kind of a disease which happens because of a bacterial infection, and it leads to conditions such as rashes on body, fever, and also leads to skin peeling. Now, this particular disease, it is caused because of a particular type of a bacteria, that is group A Streptococcus bacteria. Group A Streptococcus bacteria. Also, it is called as gas bacteria. It is also called as gas bacteria. Now, when we talk about this particular bacteria releases certain types of toxins. It leads to certain type of toxins, which leads to overwhelming immune system. And because of that overwhelming immune system, what happens? Often your immune system starts killing even the healthy cells of the body, which leads to such kind of conditions that I have already mentioned. So, few things that you need to remember for the examination. Okay, what is the disease? Disease name is streptococcal toxic shock syndrome, STSS. It is not because of virus, it is because of bacteria. Which type of bacteria? Gas bacteria, that is group A Streptococcus bacteria. Now, when we talk about transmission of this particular disease, so how transmission happens? Transmission can happen from person to person. So, a person who is already diseased with this STSS, through bodily fluids, through saliva, etc., through respiratory droplets, it can infect another person through contaminated surfaces, and through improper handling of food can lead to this particular transmission. So, improper handling of food, contaminated surfaces, and person to person transmission is possible. Moving on to next article. Palamu Tiger Reserve. Now, this is important for the places in news. Palamu Tiger Reserve was in news. Now, why Palamu Tiger Reserve was in news? It was in news because of their declining tiger population, and to increase the tiger population here, plan has been prepared to bring the tigers and tigresses from other tiger reserves. Now, Palamu Tiger Reserve. So the Palamu Tiger Reserve, it is situated in Chota Nagpur Plateau region. In which state? In the state of Jharkhand. And also it is part of one national park, that is Betla National Park. So Palamu Tiger Reserve, also it is the part of which national park? Betla. And which state? It is in the state of Jharkhand. Why it was in news? Because there is a plan to bring the tigers and tigresses from the other reserves, other tiger reserves. Now, when we talk about this particular Palamu Tiger Reserve, not only tiger population but other important keystone species are also found here, that is tiger. Now, tiger's status on IUCN Red List is endangered. Along with the tiger, there is also Asiatic elephant that is found here. Now, Asiatic elephant status is also endangered on IUCN Red List, and then leopard, which has the status of vulnerable on IUCN Red List, it is also found. Here. So, Asiatic elephant, leopard, tiger, all are found here in Palamu Tiger Reserve. Now, some important aspects that might come is the river flowing through this particular area. So, North Koel, Auranga, and Bura, fine, flows through this particular region. Again, which rivers flow through this region? North Koel, Auranga, and Bura. North Koel, Auranga, and Bura. Fine. Now, moving on to next article. Okay, guys, please interact in the live stream. Please uh, try to ask as many doubts as possible, because then only you can take the benefits. Sir, though prelims gone recently, can we do concentration on prelims content from now onwards? Okay, so this doubt might be there in the mind of many aspirants, that should you be focused on prelims only. Now, many of you might have given prelims examination. Your exam might not have been as per your expectation, but right now it is not logical to again focus on prelims examination, because understand this thing, that very least of you will find this particular thing, that my paper could have been better if I would have read Lakshmikant one more time, or my paper could have been better if I would have read Spectrum one more time. So there are certain sources that you have to read, and that you can start December or January onwards also. 5-6 months are there. Now, from now, so time from June to December should primarily be focused on your mains examination. And here your main focus area should be ethics paper, your optional paper, and certain areas within the mains examination which don't have overlap with the prelims. For example, those kind of areas. Okay. So focus on mains examination right now. Okay. Sir, please share the PDF of every class. PDF is already uploaded on Telegram channel. You can download from the Telegram channel. Now, how climate change is fostering the spread of Aedes albopictus mosquito. Aedes albopictus mosquito. So basically, guys, what has happened recently, now this particular thing has come forward. Now see, even IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which recently released its assessment report, they have come out with this thing that as temperatures will increase, more hot and humid conditions will get created, and because of this hot and humid conditions, many bacterial diseases will increase, many mosquito borne diseases will increase. Now when we talk about mosquito population, you know this particular thing that mosquitoes, they thrive in hot and humid conditions. Now we find this particular thing that what is happening, they, as global temperatures are rising, as precipitation patterns are shifting, also it is leading to much of the warm and humid climates, and these warm and humid climates are also being found in Europe. Now for example, countries like Spain, Italy, France, they are experiencing increased risk of mosquito borne diseases. Now because of this particular changing weather, changing climatic conditions, changing humidity levels, one particular mosquito whose population will thrive more, it is Aedes albopictus. Aedes albopictus. Now, when we talk about Aedes albopictus, so Aedes albopictus, this particular mosquito is also called as the Asian tiger mosquito. Why Asian tiger mosquito? Because of the tiger-like pattern, tiger-like stripes that are found on the body of this particular mosquito. So it has black and white striped pattern. It has black and white striped pattern, and this particular mosquito is notorious for spread of dengue fever, chikungunya fever, Zika virus, and yellow fever. Dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and yellow fever. Earlier also the question on such kind of a lines have been asked in the prelims examination. So important. Fine. Aedes albopictus. Aedes albopictus responsible for all these particular diseases. Okay, and particularly when we talk about the countries in Europe, temperate countries, they did not they did not had faced a lot of menace because of the mosquito-borne disease, but now they will face the menace of mosquito-borne disease, particularly which country? Spain, Italy, and France. Spain, Italy, and France. Now moving on to next article, joint communique on peace framework for Ukraine. Joint communique on peace framework for Ukraine. So basically, guys, what happened recently? So recently what happened, a peace summit was organized in Switzerland. Peace summit was organized in Switzerland. Now this particular peace summit focused on bringing a compromise in Russia and Ukraine, because of this particular war is going on for so many of the months, and so many children, women, innocent people have been died. Now what India has said, India has expressed its stand on this Russia-Ukraine war and said that peace proposal cannot be unilaterally imposed. For example, Western countries cannot impose a peace proposal on Russia, or Russia, China cannot impose a peace proposal on Ukraine. Any peace proposal should come from both the sides, should be mutually acceptable. Only then, peace proposal will be effective. So what has happened? So basically, in the peace summit that was held in Switzerland, there was a joint communique. There was a joint communique that was issued. So India chose not to endorse this particular final communique. Fine, India has not supported it. Why India has not supported it? Because India said that the peace should be mutually acceptable. Both the parties should come and accept it. Okay. Beyond that, nothing much is there. Next is doctrine of res judicata. Doctrine of res judicata. Oh, fine. Now, or doctrine of res judiciata. Now, what is this res judiciata? So recently, doctrine of res judiciata was in news. Why? Because Supreme Court recently favored the Delhi government in land acquisition disputes, and noted that doctrine of res judicata might not always apply in cases involving public interest. So what Supreme Court had said, that doctrine of res judicata might not always apply. Now, we don't need to go in this matter that what was the case, who filed the case. No, not important for examination. But what is this doctrine all about? You need to know that in one line. So basically, this doctrine provides that a matter that has already been discussed, matter that on which already verdict has been given, that particular matter cannot be litigated again. So it prevents a party from re-litigating a matter that has already been resolved in court. Let's say XYZ matter. On this particular matter, already judgment has been given. So this particular matter cannot be brought again in the court, or court might refuse to entertain this particular matter, saying that we have already entertained. So if on a particular matter judgment has been given, if on a particular matter ruling has been given, the same matter might not be entertained by the court by using this particular doctrine of res judiciata. Okay, moving on. Dead zones. So recently what has happened? So National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of US, they have predicted a huge dead zone in Gulf of Mexico. So first of all, let's see the location of Gulf of Mexico. However, if you have done the mapping classes that we have taken here on this particular platform, Gulf of Mexico already I have shown you. But again, let's see the Gulf of Mexico. Okay. So basically, guys, here you can see we have map of North America, and here in North America we have US. Fine. Then south of US we have Mexico. Fine. Here we have Gulf of California, and then here on south of Louisiana, Florida, we have this Gulf of Mexico. So here you have Atlantic Ocean. Here you have a Pacific Ocean. Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean. Here you have Mexico, and here you have Gulf of Mexico. Here you have Bahamas. Here you have Cuba. Fine. Caribbean Sea, Jamaica. Okay. Fine. Central America, and then South America. So Gulf of Mexico. So in Gulf of Mexico, there will be the formation. There is the formation of significant dead zone. Now, what is this particular dead zone? Let's understand. Okay, what is this dead zone? Now, this dead zone, it is also called as hypoxic zone. Dead zone, also called as hypoxic zone. Now, hypoxic zone is that particular area in the water body which has exceptionally low level of dissolved oxygen. Now, you know this particular thing, that dissolved oxygen in water is very much essential for marine life, fishes, etc. But when the oxygen level in water will go very, very, very low, or there is no oxygen, it leads to dead zone or hypoxic zone. There you will not find any marine life. So these hypoxic zones are the regions in lakes. They are the regions in ocean where oxygen level are so low that marine life cannot survive. Okay, now this particular dead zone, why it is formed in water? Why dead zone is formed in water? First, what happens, there is a eutrophication that happens. What is eutrophication? So eutrophication refers to a phenomena when there are too much of nutrients that are washed away from land to water body. So what happens? There is excess increase in nutrients in water body, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus. Nutrients will increase. Now, why they increase? Largely because of agriculture runoff, because of the vast wastewater that is mixing with the water body, because that wastewater sewage is bringing a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus, because of industrial pollutant that is mixed with the water body. So these particular nutrients, they increase. Now, because of that, what happens? These nutrients, they promote the rapid algal growth, and what happen? There will be the algal blooms that will be formed. Now, basically, these algal blooms will be formed. Now, what happened when these algal blooms will die? Fine, they will sink to the bottom and they will get decomposed. And during their decomposition of these particular algal blooms, what will happen? Large amount of oxygen will be consumed. Large amount of oxygen will be consumed. Okay, this is something that happens. Fine. Also what happens because of these dense algae that are formed on the water body, sunlight doesn't reaches the underwater plants, and as sunlight doesn't reaches the underwater plant, what happens? The food available now, often these seaweeds, sea plants that are consumed by many marine organisms. Now the food availability also gets reduced down. So food availability reduced down, oxygen availability is also getting reduced down. Why? Because of the lot of oxygen is already being used in the decomposition of these algal blooms. So eventually what happened, all the marine life, it vanishes from this particular region, and it leads to the hypoxic zone, or it leads to the dead zone, hypoxic zone or dead zone. Fine. Now heavy rains also. Okay, now high temperatures. Now what is the impact of temperature? Now, okay, so first of all, when we talk about temperature, high temperatures can exacerbate these dead zones. They can exacerbate these particular dead zones. Water, wind. So basically what wind can help in, wind can mix oxygen rich surface water with the deeper layers. Okay, moving on. Next we have here is exercise Tarang Shakti. Exercise Tarang Shakti. So Indian Air Force is hosting exercise Tarang Shakti, and this particular exercise Tarang Shakti, it will be organized in two phases, that is phase 1 and phase 2. Let's discuss about this exercise Tarang Shakti. So this exercise Tarang Shakti will be carried in order to enhance the cooperation. It will be carried in order to enhance the interoperability between Indian Air Forces and air forces of the friendly foreign nations. Now, this particular exercise will be conducted in two phases. In phase one, now phase one will take place in the southern part of India, and phase two will take part in the western sector. Phase two will take part in western sector. So, Indian Air Force exercise with other air forces of the friendly nations. Phase 1 southern part of the country, phase 2 western part of the country. Now, which are the countries that have been invited? You can see on the screen. So countries that have been invited are Australia, France, Germany, Japan, Spain, UAE, UK and US. Okay, so I'll advise you to please download these notes. Fine, I'll advise you to please download these particular notes and use them. Okay, next, great scheme. So recently great scheme was in news. Why great scheme was in news? So recently what has happened, empowered program committee, EPC, empowered program committee. Now this empowered program committee is under National Technical Textile Mission. Textile Mission. It has provided grants, it has provided funding to startups for the development of technical textiles. Now, first of all, what do we mean by these technical textiles? So technical textiles are also often called as a functional textiles. Now you see this particular thing, that one of a textile is the clothes that you are wearing. It is an example of textile. But there are certain type of specialized textiles. For example, certain type of materials which have tendency, which are fireproof. They can resist fire. Now there are particular kind of a textiles. There are particular type of the textiles that are used in order to avoid the landslides. There are certain type of textiles which have huge durability and have industrial application. So we call these particular kind of textiles as technical textiles. Okay, the clothes that are the firefighters, their clothes, they need to be fireproof. So the textile that is being used there, it is called as the technical textiles. So technical textiles are those textiles which have industrial applications. Okay, now So what is this particular GREAT scheme all about? So GREAT stands for Grant for Research and Entrepreneurship across aspiring innovators in technical textiles. This is the GREAT. What does again GREAT stands for? Grant for Research and Entrepreneurship across aspiring innovators in technical textile. GREAT scheme. Under this particular GREAT scheme, what happens? This particular GREAT scheme supports young innovators, scientists, technologists, startups who who can come out with the promising technical textiles, who can come out with the promising technical textiles. Now researchers, scientists and the startups, they are given the grant of up to 50 lakh rupees, grant of up to 50 lakh rupees, so that they can come out with the innovative technical textiles, so that they can come out with the innovative technical textiles. Now this great scheme, it is the part of National Technical Textile Mission, National Technical Textile Mission, who aims to position India as a leading player in technical textile industry. Fine, which aims to position India as a leading player in technical textile industry. Fine, moving on. Okay, so great scheme. So great scheme. What does great scheme for? Uh, great scheme is for what? Textiles. Textiles. Nalanda University. So recently you might have seen in the news that Prime Minister inaugurated Nalanda University campus. So let's understand little bit aspects of Nalanda University. Now for examination only we need to see it. If you have interest, then you can read more, but for examination only few points you need to know about Nalanda University. So basically when we talk about Nalanda University, it has recently been inaugurated near the ruins of Rajgir near the ruins of Rajgir. Near the ruins of Rajgir. Okay. Now, when we talk about Nalanda University, so Nalanda University has the rich center of learning in Bihar. Now, this particular university, it was established in the it was established in early it was established into the 5th century. And who established it? It was established by the Gupta dynasty, particularly Kumar Gupta I of Gupta dynasty. Kumar Gupta I of the Gupta dynasty. Now from 5th century BC till 600, for next 600 years, it thrived, it became the seat of academic learning, it became the seat of cultural profusion. Now when we talk about Nalanda University, golden era of Nalanda University came during the time of Harshvardhan and the Pal rulers and Harshvardhans, they have patronized this particular university and has provided the support, patronage, grant, funding to this particular university. Now, when we talk about the Nalanda, Nalanda was monastic institution. Nalanda was the monastic institution. Monastic institution means that here the monks and nuns, they resided and they provided education. They resided also, they provided education. Now, this Nalanda University was an important center for Buddhist learnings and Buddhist teachings. And because of that, the countries where the Buddhism spread from, their scholars have come to Nalanda University for learning. For example, large number of scholars, students from China, Korea, Japan, Tibet, Mongolia, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, they came to the Nalanda University for learning, and it has helped in enhancing the cooperation. It has helped in making relations with these particular countries. Now, when we talk about Nalanda University, what was the curriculum that was offered? So, Nalanda University, it offered the subjects in Buddhist learning, medicine, particularly the Ayurveda, mathematics, grammar, astronomy, and philosophy. In all these particular areas, lectures and the learning was imparted. Also, when we talk about the Nalanda University, when decline happened, so Nalanda University's decline happened in the 12th century. In the 12th century, because it was ravaged by Bakhtiyar Khilji. It was ravaged by Bakhtiyar Khilji. Then after 12th century, this particular university, it was ruined so much that it was rediscovered after again the gap of 600 years. So in 1812, it was rediscovered by Francis Buchanan Hamilton. So who rediscovered it? Francis Buchanan Hamilton. And then further excavation, further identification, further work on its for further work on retracing its history was done by the Alexander Cunningham in 1861. Okay, so Alexander Cunningham, Francis Buchanan Hamilton, these are the ones who were responsible for the rediscovery of Nalanda University. Okay, also this particular university, it has been mentioned in the accounts of Zuan Zhang, who was a Chinese monk. Also, Nalanda University, it has been acknowledged as UNESCO World Heritage Site. UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this is all that you need to know about the Nalanda University. Now moving on to the next question, next article. Moving on to next article. Now we have here Krishi Sakhi Convergence Program. Krishi Sakhi Convergence Program. So recently what happened? Prime Minister has given certificates to around 30,000 Krishi Sakhis. Now, who are Krishi Sakhis? So basically, before going in this Krishi Sakhi, I just want to talk about one more initiative, that is Lakhpati Didi scheme. Lakhpati Didi scheme. So Lakhpati Didi scheme is the basically Lakhpati Didi scheme. It aims to provide 1 lakh per annum income to at least 2 crore women. So 2 crore women, they will be supported, 2 crore women will be trained so that they can earn at least 1 lakh rupees of income per year. Lakhpati Didi scheme. Under Lakhpati Didi scheme, government is going to train women in a lot of ventures. For example, they will be trained to operate drones, they will be trained to do plumbing work, they will be trained to do LED repair work, etc. And under Lakhpati Didi scheme, what government is doing? Government is also recognizing women as Krishi Sakhi. Now, what is Krishi Sakhi? Now, Krishi Sakhis are recognized under the Krishi Sakhi Convergence program. Now, here, rural women, they will be trained, they will be equipped with agricultural skills and knowledge. For example, they will be giving knowledge with respect to ascertaining the soil fertility. They will be giving knowledge as how technical inputs are to be applied to the agricultural field. Okay, so Krishi Sakhis will be trained, and these Krishi Sakhis then further are going to train the farmers. Then they will give this particular knowledge to the to the marginalized farmers, etc. So basically what will be done? Rural women will be trained, and they will be trained in the different aspects of agriculture. They will be certified as Krishi Sakhis. They will be certified as Krishi Sakhis. And these Krishi Sakhis, they are the part of Lakhpati Didi. Next, World Refugee Day. World Refugee Day. Now, guys, recently what happened? There was the World Refugee Day that was commemorated. The World Refugee Day is being commemorated since 2001. However, we have one detailed article also on refugee issue, because on 20th June, when World Refugee Day was commemorated, entire Hindu paper was filled with the World Refugee Day related articles. So I will cover it when I'll discuss that particular article. Okay, so just wait for a few minutes, I'll discuss it. Article that we have is INS Sunana. INS Sunana. So recently INS Sunana was in news. Now, what is INS Sunana? INS Sunana, fine, is India's naval ship, and this INS Sunana recently docked in Mombasa, Kenya. It docked in Kenya. And this particular docking exercise, it was the part of Ocean Ring of Yoga. Ocean Ring of Yoga. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about India, you see this thing, India runs the Sagar initiative. India runs this particular Sagar initiative. Now Sagar stands for security and growth for all in the region. Security and growth for all in the region. And as per this particular Sagar initiative, India intends to be the net security provider. India intends to be the net security provider for the countries in and around Indian Ocean. And as a part of this particular Sagar initiative, INS Sunana has made a visit to the Kenya. INS Sunana has made the visit to Kenya. Moving on to the next one. e-Shram portal was in news recently. So what has happened recently? 112th International Labour Conference was organized in Geneva, and there Secretary of Ministry of Labour and Employment has talked about the success of e-Shram portal. Now, what is this e-Shram portal all about? So let's see this particular thing. First of all, guys, when we talk about e-Shram portal, first of all, see, during COVID pandemic, you might have seen that a lot of reverse migration was happening. Fine, migrants, they were walking on feet to their home, to their villages. And at that point of a time, this particular debate got started that are we doing sufficient? Are we doing sufficient to address the migrants' concerns, migrants' problems? Fine. And there it came that even we don't have information, we don't have a database with respect to the migrants in India. And therefore, in 2021, e-Shram portal was launched by Ministry of Labour and Employment. Ministry of Labour and Employment. And this particular e-Shram portal, it will be a comprehensive national database of unorganized workers. Comprehensive national database of not organized worker, comprehensive national database of unorganized workers. Now, why this particular database is needed? Now, see this particular thing. Basically, what is the situation? Situation is that unorganized workers, unorganized migrants, what they can do? They can register on this particular e-Shram portal. They can make a self-declaration that I am working in unorganized sector. There are around 400 occupations and 30 broad sectors that have been recognized. So, any person working in any of these occupation out of this 400 can give a self-declaration, and through Aadhaar they will be verified. And by registering on this particular e-Shram portal, they will become eligible to get access of social security schemes for the workers by the different ministries. So basically, health related scheme, pension related scheme, okay, pension related scheme, or any such kind of schemes that are there, they will get it. So through this e-Shram portal, through this self-declaration, they can get access to insurance schemes, pension schemes. Fine. Okay. Then also there are the two other portals also that are there. Fine. National Career Service Portal. Now, what is this National Career Service Portal? So this particular portal basically this particular portal matches the it facilitates job matching and employment services. So suppose a particular person is having a skill set that he can do the work of carpentry. So this particular skill set will be matched with the employer who are looking for carpenters. The National Skilled India Digital Hub, it provides access to skill development programs. Then next is Delos Island was in news. So Delos Island, now this particular island is actually, it is a Greek island. It is a Greek island and it is exactly situated in the Aegean Sea. And as the temperature is rising, there is a threat that sea level will increase. And as sea level will increase, this Delos Island will submerge. Now, if this Delos Island submerges, it will lead to, now see, uh, so there is a popular and a remarkable ancient site that is there on the Delos Island, and this particular ancient site will also be submerged if the Delos Island submerges. Okay. Now, Delos Island, it is a rocky island and it is a part of the Cyclades archipelago. Where it is situated? It is situated in Aegean Sea. And it was first settled in 3rd BC. UNESCO has declared it as a World Heritage Site. Now, when we talk about Aegean Sea, so Aegean Sea, where it is located? It is located actually in the East Mediterranean Basin. Fine. Moving on. Let me show you the location also here on the map. Okay, so so Mediterranean Sea, here you have Aegean Sea. Here you have seen, you have Aegean Sea. And within this Aegean Sea, you have the Delos Island. So Sea of Crete, Aegean Sea. Now, here you have Black Sea. Here you have Black Sea. And basically, Black Sea here then we have the Bosphorus Strait, then there is a Sea of Marmara, then there is a Dardanelles Strait, then there is Aegean Sea, and then the Sea of Crete, and then Mediterranean Sea. So, Black Sea, though it's not mentioned here, but here we have the Bosphorus Strait. Then we have Sea of Marmara. Then here we have the Dardanelles Strait. Then here we have Aegean Sea. Here we have Sea of Crete, and here we have Mediterranean Sea. Okay, fine. Is it clear to everyone, guys? Are you able to understand or not? Fine. Are you able to understand this? Now, moving on to the next one. Moving on to the next one. Okay. Now, guys, we are going to get started with the editorials that have been published in Hindu and Indian Express newspapers in the last 1 week. And these particular articles will be again very much important for our examination, because when we talk about the mains examination in particular, there are a lot of questions that are coming which are opinionated in nature. And for those opinionated questions, these particular articles are going to help you. So let's get started with this particular component. Now, the first article that we are discussing here in this particular capacity will be this article that was published in the Hindu newspaper, and the article reads Inter-Caste. Now, this particular article, it specifically caters to GS paper 1, GS paper 1 society, GS paper 1 society, and within GS paper number 1 society, caste and related issues. Caste and related issues, we are going to discuss this particular article. So basically what has happened recently, there were many caste conflicts that were observed, particularly in state of Tamil Nadu. Often it has been seen that the caste divides are found in education, they are found in the villages, even in schools there are the caste lines that have been observed. Students of upper caste are often not preferring to sit with the students of the lower or the marginalized caste. Now, what has happened? So, right. So, basically, what has happened in this particular capacity? What has happened in this particular capacity? Fine. Justice K. Chandru Committee was formed. Justice K. Chandru Committee was formed, and Justice K. Chandru Committee has given certain recommendations, certain suggestions that how caste consciousness in students can be reduced. Now, first of all, Justice K. Chandru Committee has recommended that there should be a clear ban, there should be a clear prohibition on any symbols that might indicate the caste identity of a student. For example, many number of times students, they are wearing the colored wristbands. Now, often certain colored colors, they are attached with the particular caste. So, colored wristbands should not be allowed. Some particular type of rings, forehead marks such as tilaks, they should not be allowed. Why? Because often they give indication about one's religion and one's caste. Also, it has been provided that any caste insignia, any caste expression, any caste name, any caste related picture, sticker should not be allowed on bicycles. Also, it has been provided that when the students' names are concerned, their names should not depict any kind of a casteist undertone. Okay, this is something that they have suggested, and it is suggested that it will help to reduce the caste consciousness in students. Now, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about the caste consciousness, it happens to be one big it happens to be one it happens to be one thing which has divided the society. Then historically, we have seen that earlier also certain precedents have been taken. For example, what has happened? Caste names have been removed from public utilities. Okay, from textbooks, caste names have been reduced, but actually it has frankly not helped that much. Why? Because value inculcation is something which needs to be helped. Now, first, what we need when we talk about the way forward, that what exactly is to be done. Number one, there is urgent need of educational reforms. First of all, at the level of teachers. So it has been provided that there should be a dedicated body by the name of Social Justice Monitoring Committee. Social Justice Monitoring Committee. Now, this Social Justice Monitoring Committee will ensure that there is the inclusion of social justice, equality, and non-discrimination related content in school curriculum. So there is this particular technique of catch them young. What is this catch them young methodology? It is provided that if any sociological change, if any mental change, if any psychological change is to be brought in the children, then that particular change should be executed at a young age, because in young age neuroplasticity in children is such that they can learn, they can adapt to anything. Later words they might not be able to adapt. So therefore, social justice, equality, non-discrimination should be included in school curriculum as early as possible. And here, Social Justice Monitoring Committee will oversee this particular thing. Then it has been provided that the teacher education program, such as B.Ed, Diploma in Elementary Education, fine, they are also needed to be updated. Often it has been observed that the teachers are the ones who are giving the social validation to caste. Often teachers are the one which are discriminating children on the caste line. So the teachers, they are also needed to be, they are basically the curriculums which they are reading, it also needed to be updated, so that the teachers, they themselves promote inclusivity. Then next thing that comes here is that centralized kitchens are being proposed. Centralized kitchens are being proposed. So kitchens should not be segregated. Fine. So that has been provided. Then after that, the next thing that comes here is that social justice student force is being suggested. Now, this particular student force will promote the values of inclusivity, will promote the values of fraternity, inclusivity, etc. But this particular thing has been criticized. It has been said that, you see, when we talk about the NCC, National Cadet Corps are there, Scouts are there, then there are the school level guides that are there. Now, they also focus on the values such as inclusivity, social justice. So, if NCC has not been able to bring this kind of a value change, okay, then how this particular new force, new student body will be able to bring? So rather than creating new body for everything, existing institutions that are there, they are needed to be strengthened, fine. That is about it. Okay, then after that, finally, what is needed? We need to bring a broader societal level change also. If the politicians, if parents, they will impart good values, okay, then these kind of instances of caste discrimination can get reduced. So we need to bring a societal transformation at village level, at the political level. There need to be political resolve also, that the caste based politics should not be used as a tool to divide society. Often what is happening now, see, it is said that one should one should cast their vote in elections. But rather than this, what is happening? People are often voting their caste. People are not casting their vote, they are voting their caste in elections. So why they are doing it? Because the politicians are often leveraging the caste identity in elections. So politicians need to be more responsible. Fine. Moving on, then we have this next article, gender parity. Now this particular article, it mentions about the recently released global gender gap report, which was released by the World Economic Forum. Now what happened in this global gender gap report? Though progress has happened when compared to the previous year, that is 2023, but speed of progress is not satisfactory. According to global gender gap report released by World Economic Forum, it has been provided that actually it will take 134 years. It will take 134 years to achieve full parity, to achieve gender parity. Now, what are the places where we find that the gender parity is not there? There are multiple places. For example, gender parity is missing in employment. Gender parity, for example, when you talk about the female labor force participation rate, it has been less compared to the male. Okay, then we have the gender wage gaps are there. Women are being paid less just because they are women. So gender wage gaps are there. Female labor force participation rate is less. There are the pink collar jobs that exist. Certain type of jobs are believed to be the women oriented jobs. Certain type of jobs are believed to be masculine jobs, and their women are not preferred. So we find that the gender parity is not there, and it will take 134 years. According to this global gender gap, it has been said that we will be able to achieve gender parity by which year? By 2154, by 2154. But SDG goal that we have taken in 2015, Sustainable Developmental Goals, which have 17 goals and 169 targets, SDG goal took a timeline of 2030. SDGs took a timeline of 2030, but they will be able to achieve the gender. But as per the present progress, gender parity will be achieved by 2154. Now, when we talk about India's rank in the matters of the gender parity, gender equality, what is India's rank? India's rank is 129 out of 146, which is not good, And when we talk about India's performance, so India's gender gap closure is 64.1%. Now, when we talk about the global gender gap, closure, so on global level, gender gap closure that has happened, it has reached to 68.5%. So we have closed 68.5% of gender gap. But in India, the gender gap closure is just 64.1%. 64.1%. Now, when we talk about India, what are concerns that we have at the level of India? What are the concerns that we have? First of all, why India's progress is now not going with that particular fast pace? So, in economic participation, there is progress. So, there is improvement in economic participation. Female labor force participation rate is improving. Okay, recently what happened, BCCI also provided this particular thing that the same remuneration should be given to the men and women cricketers. Okay, also we find this particular economic participation progress is good, but we find that the condition has worsened in education and politics. Okay, for example, when we talk about the recently conducted elections, we find that in the recently conducted elections, 74 women MPs have got elected. Now in 2019 elections that happened, 78 women got elected. And now it has reduced to 74 women. So on this particular front, we find that on political front, women empowerment is not moving forward, one thing. Also, if you see what happened, we came out with the Women's Reservation Bill 2023. It got passed also. But Women Reservation Bill, it has not become, though it has become an act, but it has not come in implementation. Why it has not come in implementation? Two conditions are there. It was provided that 33% seats will be reserved for women, Number one, after 2026 delimitation is done, and number two, after census, which is pending, is done. So it has been made contingent on these two conditions, that is census and 2026 delimitation. So actually, it has not come in place. So what are the way forward? Number one, you see that decline has happened because of the educational attainment has reduced. So we need to ensure that girls who are dropping out of the higher education, they should not drop out. We need to identify reasons that why women are dropping out of higher education. Particularly when we talk about the STEM courses, that is the science, technology, engineering and mathematics, there women enrollment is very much less. Though in humanities, women enrollment is good, but in STEM courses, women enrollment is less. So we need to ensure that we prevent the dropouts from the higher education. We need to identify the factors which are hindering their participation. Job skills are to be provided in the higher education so that the women become more employable. Workplace safety is to be provided. Often women, they are not confident to travel to their workplace in the odd hours because of the physical and sexual harassment that they might face. Fine. Work-life balance post-marriage. Fine. Women should be supported so that they are able to manage the work and life. Okay, so basically dignity of labor should be brought in India. Employers should be careful to ensure that they are not to ensure that they are giving congenial condition to all the workers, not only women, to all the workers. Political inclusion. So Women Reservation Act that has already been passed, it should be implemented. It should be implemented. And World Economic Forum Managing Director Sadia Zahedi, what Sadia Zahedi has provided. It has been provided that the businesses and civil societies should be allowed businesses and civil societies should collaborate to bring gender to make gender parity an economic priority. Because until and unless corporates, until and unless civil societies, until and unless the business groups will make this as a priority, change will not come on economic front. So this is something that is to be done here. Now, moving on to the next article, elderly people in India. Now, this article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, social justice and related issues. GS paper number 2, social justice and related issues, we are going to take it up. Now, guys, understand this thing, that within social justice, vulnerable section of society, elderly happens to be one important component. And when you are writing anything with respect to the elderly population, even question on elderly has come in the GS paper number 2. So when you are writing anything on this particular aspect, you need to have adequate data. Also, writing data will not only help, you need to have certain references of the data sources as well. So recently what happened, Helpage India, which happens to be a non-governmental organization, they have carried a detailed survey with respect to the condition of old age people in India. It has given detailed data with respect to their economic vulnerability, with respect to their social vulnerability, with respect to their physical vulnerability, and ensure that you note down this particular data in your notes. So, Helpage India survey, it was conducted across 10 states and 20 cities. Now, what are the data points of this particular survey? What are the data points of this particular survey? Number one, this particular survey provides that only 15% of the elderly people who were surveyed, they had a source of income. Now, if elderly people will not have a viable source of income, their ability to invest in geriatric care will be limited. Now, what is geriatric care? Geriatric care. Okay. So geriatric care is a special type of health care that is provided to the old age people. So now geriatric care, it will become unaffordable to the people if they will not have the viable source of income. Then next, there is also gender disparity that we find in terms of accessibility of income. 24% of elderly men, they have income stream, but when we talk about women, only 7% of the women have income stream. So in terms of women, only 7% women have income stream. However, in terms of men, 24% men have income stream. Then next, 29% of elderly people, they are financially supported by their children. Now, they are financially supported by their children, but because of this particular dependency that they have on their children, there are many vulnerabilities also arise. Let's understand this particular thing. Now, when we talk about, guys, data of National Crime Record Bureau, NCRB data, it provides that there is a domestic violence cases against elderly people have increased. Why? Because of this particular dependency that they have on children. The children, they knew this particular thing, that they cannot go anywhere, even they cannot report this particular matter, because at the end of the day they are dependent on their children. Then next thing that comes here is that a huge proportion, 1 in the 3, around 33%, they report that they didn't had any income in past 1 year. Accessibility of social security schemes, old age pension scheme, etc., it is available to only 29% people. So social security is not available to majority of them. So this is the economic vulnerability. This is something economic vulnerability that we have discussed. The next we have is the healthcare challenges. So 79% of the elderly 79% of the elderly, they rely on government hospitals for health care. But often we find the government hospitals, they don't have adequate capacity to cater to the people. Recently, there was one article that one child, he needed a surgery, heart surgery. 6 years have happened. 6 years back, he needed health surgery. Now 6 years has happened. The child has not got the surgery, and this was the case of AIIMS Delhi. So capacity in government hospitals is so less, but 78% are dependent on government hospital. Just 31% have health insurance, and they can approach the private hospital. Fine, these ones who are not, the ones who are not having health insurance, they cannot even approach the private health facilities because they become unaffordable. Then geriatric care facilities are known to only 15%. Fine, 15% people know that there is something geriatric health care kind of a thing. Okay. Also, it has been provided that health issues are prevalent. 54% are having 2 or more non-communicable diseases. 26% having at least one non-communicable diseases. Now, no need to go too much in detail that, okay, how many percentage are having diabetes, how many percentage are having cardiovascular diseases. Now, what is way forward? What is way forward in this particular capacity? So way forward is that, number one, we need to ensure the financial security. We need to ensure financial security of all the old age people. Understand this particular thing, that the social security scheme, pension plans, okay, PF, social security should be reoriented for the old age people. Should be reoriented for the old age people so that they have adequate incomes in the old age. Then next, we need to come out with the dedicated income generated program for the old people. Fine. Now understand this thing, that once a person, let's say, is retired, we think that now the person is not willing to work. But no, often people want to work in order to get a purpose in life. Often people still want to work so that they can productively be engaged in some kind of a intellectual pursuits. Sometimes people want to work because they want to get dependent on their children. Sometimes people want to work for the sake of financial independence. But we don't have dedicated platforms which can provide the job for old age retired people. We need to focus on that. The next thing that is needed to be focused is, we need to expand the health insurances to more and more elderly people. You see, only 31% people are having health insurance. So ensure that the penetration of health insurance increases to more and more people. Then availability and awareness of geriatric facilities need to be enhanced. Now, when we talk about the geriatric care, there are the problem of 3A that is there in this particular capacity. First A is, these geriatric cares are not affordable. First A is that they are not available. Majority of hospitals, where you find them? You find them in tier 1, tier 2 cities, metropolitan cities. But where majority of old people live? They live in villages. In fact, 41% people will live in urban India by 2030 as per Niti Aayog. Majority of India is still living in rural areas, but hospitals are in urban areas. So number one, they are not available. If they are available, let's say some old person living in metropolitan city, often they are not affordable. They are available, but often they are not affordable. They are very costly. Suppose availability is there, affordability is also there. Often they are not accessible. Old age people, because of the knowledge gap that is there, because of the mobility restrictions that they have, they are often not able to approach. So therefore, geriatric facilities are need to be enhanced. They needed to be, old people need to be made aware about them. Then caregivers are needed to be supported. Now see, many number of times the children who take care of their parents, they don't have adequate information about the special needs of, special psychological needs, special social needs, special physical needs of the old age people as they age. So we need to establish support networks. We need to establish organizations that can provide social psychological support to both caregivers as well as old age people. The next thing is there, we need to formulate state specific policies which will address the demand of the elderly people. Fine. So that is all, guys, about it. Fine. Now moving on to next. Okay. So here we have this article, high cost of a global economic decoupling. high cost of a global economic decoupling. Now, this article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, International Affairs. International Affairs. Okay. So, first of all, guys, let me tell you something about the background. So, there is this particular word that is decoupling. What this particular word decoupling means. So, decoupling and de-risking was a was a strategic policy that was devised by US when they found that they are significantly dependent on China for their critical inputs. Fine. Now, for example, guys, for lot of electrical equipments, for lot of chemicals, for active pharmaceutical ingredients that are the backbone of the drugs, there is a lot of dependence on China. There is a lot of dependence of China, and there is a possibility that the China can weaponize this particular dependence. China might stop supply to US. China might stop supply to US, and as US's industries are dependent on China, what might happen? They will face a kind of an economic crisis. So there's a threat of trade weaponization by China. So therefore, countries don't want to depend too much on China, and they are now decoupling. Means they are detaching from China and they are now getting attached with the other countries. They are expanding. They are diversifying their supply chains. They are diversifying their supply chains. This is something that is being done. Now, what happened recently? One more development has happened in this particular line of decoupling. So recently, US, they had imposed restrictions on certain category of Chinese imports. So basically, certain restrictions have been imposed. Certain restrictions have been imposed on the Chinese imports. Why? Because they want to reduce the economic interdependence on China. They want to reduce the economic interdependence on China. Now, you see this particular thing, that this particular development is driven out of the concern of national security and trade imbalances. Fine. Now, also geopolitical rivalries are increasing. Now, you see this particular thing, that for example, there are a lot of IT equipments that are being imported by China, and there is a threat that these Chinese IT equipments might compromise their national security. China might carry the surveillance basically through the equipments that they are supplying. Also, trade imbalances. Now, as a dependency is there on the China, trade deficit also has increased between the US and China, which leads to economic repercussions on the part of US. And then the geopolitical rivalries. Now, you see this particular thing, that Russia-Ukraine war is going on. And as this Russia-Ukraine war is going on, Russia has teamed with China. And Russia and China, now they are actually becoming a counter force for the US and the Western allied nations. So China, as it is supporting Russia, so a kind of a sense of rivalry also has come between the US and China. Moreover, what US wants to do? US wants to revitalize their own domestic industries. See, till the time dependence is there on China, US's domestic industries will not invest in their own capabilities. So this is something that the US is also trying to build upon. Then what has happened? Also, US has targeted which type of sectors? They have specifically targeted electric vehicles, medical devices. Now, in short term or in immediate term, it will also have impact on US. What it will do? It will raise the production cost. It will increase the consumer prices in the US. Now, as the cheap Chinese made electrical equipments are being imported, as medical devices were being, EVs were being imported from China, as medical devices were being imported from China. Now, as they will not come, what will happen? US need to develop these components at their own, and in short term, the cost of production will go up. Also, this particular shift will prompt the other nations also to secure their supply chain. Now, you see, as US is doing it, Europe will also follow the same kind of a thing. And in Europe also, these particular input prices will go up. Fine. This is something that might happen. Okay. Now, what is way forward? What is suggestion in this particular direction? Number one, there should be balanced trade policies. There should be the balanced trade policies. Now, you see this particular thing. Let's see, countries have all the right Countries have all the right that they should look in their national interest. They have all the right that they should be careful about their strategic interest. But at the same time, globalization that has been enhancing in the last few years, that globalization's principle also needs to be respected. Okay. Reinforcement of global trade mechanism. Now understand this thing, that WTO like bodies need to be empowered so that they can address such kind of disputes if they are arising. And finally, countries need to go for economic diversification. So rather than being dependent on one country, for example, China, they should going for the supply chain diversification. Now, when we talk about China, guys, uh, a- a- um, an alternative to China could be India. Could be India. Fine. So basically, diversification in such kind of countries need to be done. Diversification in such kind of countries need to be done. Fine. I hope, guys, this is clear to everyone. Now, moving on to the next article. Moving on to the next article. Okay. Blueprint beyond borders for solace and shelter. Okay. Refugee, asylum, and protectionism. So, guys, recently, 20th of June was observed as World Refugee Day. Now, few things I would like to tell you with respect to the refugee and their related issues. And this particular article we are going to see with respect to the GS paper number 2, refugee issues, GS paper number 4, ethics, human right related issues. We are going to see this particular article. So let's get started. Let's get started. Okay. Now, guys, first of all, when we talk about refugee, we have 1951 Refugee Convention. There is 1951 Refugee Convention, which happens to be the most comprehensive document outlining rights of refugees. It talks about the safe and orderly management of refugees, um, uh, refugees' rights, etc., have been recognized. Then there is one additional protocol, that is the 1967 Protocol of Refugee Convention. There is 1967 Protocol of Refugee Convention that we have. Then this is one. This is one. Secondly, there is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee. There is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee. Now, this UNHCR, it is the dedicated body, or it is a dedicated this is a dedicated institution responsible for protecting the refugee rights. Now, when we talk about India, first of all, understand this particular thing, that India has not signed this 1951 Refugee Convention. Okay. Also, India has not signed this 1967 Refugee Convention's additional protocol. Thirdly, India also has not come out with its own refugee policy. India has also not come out with its own refugee policy. Fine. These are certain things that need to be kept in mind. Now, when we talk about India, guys, India in the past has offered support, has offered uh, refuge to the migrants coming from the countries such as Tibet. So in 1958-59, a lot of Tibetan refugees came to India. India has provided them the asylum. Then a large number of people have come from Bangladesh. Now, if you guys know, there is, you see this thing, there is Assam Accords of 1985. There are Assam Accord of 1985. Now, what is this Assam Accord of 1985? Now, Assam Accord of 1985 recognizes that the refugees that have come from Bangladesh till 1971, they will be given the citizenship of India. Sorry, yes, refugees came between 1966 to 71. They will be given the citizenship. Fine. Okay, this is something that has been provided. So, India has treated refugees with the compassion and empathy in the past. There are refugees that have come from Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Nepal. They have been accommodated, though India has not signed 1951 Refugee Convention. But again, because we don't have formal legal framework for refugees, often there is incoherence that comes in the refugee management in India. There is an incoherence that comes in the refugee management in India. So our asylum laws often become inconsistent, and sometimes they become inadequate. Sometimes they become inadequate. Now, what happened in past? Private member bill have been introduced. For example, Shashi Tharoor, an MP, introduced a private member bill which provided for establishing a comprehensive refugee and asylum law in India. Now, this comprehensive refugee law or asylum law, what it will provide? It will outline, this comprehensive refugee law will outline that what are the conditions on which India will give asylum to any person, on what will be the rights of the refugees, all such kind of things were to be provided. Fine. But this particular bill, being a private member bill, did not got passed. Also, this particular bill emphasized on the principle of non-refoulement. Principle of non-refoulement. Now, what is this principle of non-refoulement? Principle of non-refoulement provides that a country should not deport back any refugee, any immigrant to that country. Suppose Rohingyas, let's say, have come from Myanmar to India. Now, let's say Rohingyas coming to India, they might have a threat to their life if they go back. So, India should not send back them to their home because there is a threat to their life in their home territory. This is principle of non-refoulement. So, principle of non-refoulement restricts a country from sending back the refugee to their home country if they face a threat in their home country. Fine. Now, principle of non-refoulement, etc., rights of the refugee people, all were mentioned in this particular bill, but this particular bill did not got passed. Now, what is the current handling of refugees? So currently, I told you we don't have any coherent policy with respect to the refugee management. Fine, whether the asylum will be given or not given, if given, what type of rights will be recognized, all such kind of things are decided on case by case basis. Now, some refugees coming from some selected countries, if they are being registered with the Indian government, they get documentation such as Aadhaar card. They often also get economic opportunities. But refugees who have been registered with United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees but not registered with the government, they don't receive any type of benefit. And therefore, it has been said that treatment becomes not discriminatory towards these people. Becomes discriminatory towards these particular people. So therefore, what is way forward in this particular capacity? What are the suggestions in this particular capacity? So suggestions that we have in this direction is that number one, we need to come out with a dedicated law. We need to come out with a dedicated law. We need to come out with a national asylum law, which will define the rights of refugee people, which also which will impose the conditionalities on government also. Then there is the need of judiciary and policy consistency. No, judiciary often has recognized the fundamental rights of refugee people, has talked about certain non-negotiable rights for refugee people, but they have not been given. Fine. Also, we need to recognize the basic access of public service, education, employment by refugee people. And then there should be international cooperation. Fine. We need to cooperate. Basically, we need to align our national refugee policy with the international laws. Fine, as enshrined in the as enshrined into the Refugee Convention of 1951. Okay. Fine. Then next, here we have two articles that came: Killer Moonshine and How Dangerous is Methanol Poisoning. So this article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, issues related to health. So recently what happened? There was a huge tragedy that happened in Tamil Nadu. So basically, what is hooch? Basically, hooch is locally made, country made liquor. That is hooch. So recently what happened in Tamil Nadu, there are certain people who consumed this country made liquor, okay, who consumed this particular locally made liquor, and many of them died, and many of them, they faced they faced fatalities also. Now, when we talk about this huge tragedy, what happened? 38 people they died, and more than 80 people they were hospitalized after consuming this particular alcohol. Now, few things we need to understand. Now, when we talk about this particular huge tragedy, it was found that this alcohol, this particular liquor, it was laced with methanol. Now, understand, guys, what happens when these drinks are being are being prepared locally, often they fail to distill them properly. And because proper distillation doesn't happen, so some certain toxic components percentage, certain toxic components concentration increases beyond the safety level. And sometimes far more methanol is used. Now guys, when we talk about methanol, it is a toxic alcohol. It is a toxic alcohol. And sometimes this methanol is added to, now this is a industrial methanol has industrial application. Sometimes it is added to homemade liquor in order to enhance its intoxicating effects, in order to enhance its intoxicating effect. But if this methanol's concentration goes beyond a particular level, it can lead to liver failure, it can lead to blindness, and also it can lead to death. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about ethanol, it is a safe kind of an alcohol. Ethanol, it is a safe kind of an alcohol, and it breaks down in less harmful substances in your body. But when we talk about methanol metabolizes to form formaldehyde in the body. Also methanol, it breaks down to form the formic acid. And both of this formic acid and formaldehyde, they are harmful, they are dangerous if they are consumed. So what happens? So just a minute. Yes. So what happens? Methanol, it breaks down in formaldehyde. Methanol, it breaks down in formaldehyde and formic acid, which is harmful for human. Fine. So this is the problem that happens. This is a problem that happens. Now, immediate effect of consumption of methanol laced alcohol, methanol poisoning, could be headache, dizziness, nausea, visual disturbance, can lead to cerebral edema, hemorrhage, and death. Now, basically, what are the factors? What are the factors which are responsible for increased consumption of these homemade liquors? What are the factors which have led to the increased production of such kind of a hooch, and then hooch tragedies are happening? Number one, affordability. Now, often guys, when we talk about Tamil Nadu, so in Tamil Nadu, alcohol sale, it is largely by TASMAC outlets. And these TASMAC outlets, fine, basically, they are highly regulated, and basically, uh, as they're highly regulated, a lot of taxes are imposed on this kind of an alcohol, and the alcohols, liquors, they become very much expensive. As they become very much expensive, poor people, what they happen? They often resort to these locally made, country made, homemade liquors. Also, guys, accessibility and easy availability of these local country made liquors is there. Number one, high cost, and number two, easy availability of these kind of liquors is there. Then thirdly, there are enforcement gaps. Thirdly, there are enforcement gaps that are there. Okay. Then the next, then what is to be done in this particular capacity? Number one, there should be enhanced surveillance. So prohibition enforcement wing should monitor the cases where the alcohol is being brewed, where these country made, locally made alcohol is brewing, and all those particular places, they needed to be raided, and such consignments should be confiscated. Then next is regulatory framework. So there should be tight controls on the sale and distribution of industrial methanol. So I told you that methanol is often used in these kind of alcohols to increase its intoxicating effect. So methanol sale is to be highly regulated. Fine. The next is there should be awareness campaigns in which people, their family members, need to be made aware with respect to the harms of these particular country made liquors. Then healthcare accessibility needs to be there. So in case if methanol poisoning happens, in case this kind of a hooch consumption incidents happen, so immediate healthcare, immediate support is to be provided. Then some more suggestions can be there is that reduce the price of regulated alcohol in these TASMAC outlets of Tamil Nadu. Now, that might not be very much, that might not be liked by a few people, that you are saying that the prices should be reduced. But guys, at the same time, if you see these high prices, they are leading to counterproductive effects. What kind of counterproductive effects they are leading to? They are leading to such kind of huge tragedies. The next, local involvement should be there. So local communities should monitor such kind of huge production centers, etc., and they should be reported. They should be reported. And then there should be a comprehensive policy framework which will address the root causes of the huge consumption, social factors related to this problem, economic factors related to this problem, awareness problem that is there. They from the roots. They need to be addressed from the roots. Now, moving on, and let's take the next article. A progressive Indian policy on Myanmar outline. Okay. Now, this article will see with respect to GS paper number 2, international affairs. Fine, international affairs and the issues related to the neighborhood. Issues related to the neighborhood. Now, so guys, you see this particular thing, that what happened in 2021, there was military coup that happened in Myanmar. And as this particular military coup has happened in Myanmar, they have led to subversion of individual liberties, individual rights. Also, we find this particular thing that large number of people, they have died because they are resisting the military takeover in Myanmar. Now, when we talk about India, guys, you see this particular thing that India has always talked about the democratic values. We always say that we support democracies, we support the democratic regimes. But undemocratic takeover has happened in Myanmar by military. India is not criticizing it. Rather, it has been said that India is cooperating with the Myanmar of it is cooperating with the military of Myanmar. It is cooperating with the junta of Myanmar, which is undemocratic. So let's explore on this particular article a little bit more. Fine. So basically, there is violence. So there is a continued violence going on in Myanmar. Human right abuse going in Myanmar. Fine. There are more than 5,000 people have died. Fine. 2.5 million people have been displaced in Myanmar since this particular takeover has happened. But India, it is still in talks. India, it is still cooperating with the military regime of Myanmar. Now you see this particular thing, guys, that there are two kind of things that are coming. One is values and other is interest. One is value and other is interest. Now let's understand this particular thing, value versus interest debate that's going on. See, when we talk about India, India has always talked about the civil values. India has talked about the democratic values. India has talked about the importance of dissent, freedom of speech and expression. All these values India have always supported. Right now, military of Myanmar, which has taken over, it doesn't stand for these particular values. And therefore, it is being said that on ideological ground or ideological parameter, India should condemn the military takeover in Myanmar. This is one thing that's coming. But on another hand, guys, we have certain interest. Now, what is this particular thing that's coming? You see, China has always supported the military regime in Myanmar. And you know that Myanmar has a long boundary with the India. And if we will adopt a kind of a critical viewpoint over the military of Myanmar, then Myanmar and China relations will become more warm. They will become more close. And what will happen? China will sponsor Myanmar and China will use Myanmar to increase insurgency in India's northeast. China will use Myanmar to bring instability in India's northeast. So therefore, it is in India's interest that if we want to maintain stability in northeast, we have to keep on negotiating. We have to keep in talking with Myanmar. We have to keep on talking with Myanmar, even if it is military takeover that has happened. So you see this thing that Indian policymakers, they argue that maintaining ties with junta is crucial for safeguarding India's strategic interest, India's security, India's trade, as particularly countering the China's influence in the region. So in foreign policy, fine, the distinction between values and interest is not always clear cut. Often these particular lines become blurry. Sometimes we give more importance to value, sometimes we give more importance to interest. And interest, if they are aligning with the national security of the country, then the interest becomes more important. Interest becomes more important. Now, when we talk about India's traditional approach with respect to Myanmar, so India has defined its interest in Myanmar very narrowly. And we focus that strategic and security concerns that we have with respect to Myanmar, they are very important for India. They are important for India. But article says that interest is important, but at the same time, values also needed to be kept in mind. So it has been provided that India can better protect its long-term interest by adhering to democratic values and human security. Adhering to democratic values and human security. So it is being said that now India should take stand on whatever human right abuses that are going on in Myanmar, because that will be the way that India will be able to portray itself as different from China. Now, what can be the way forward? Number one, capacity building and knowledge exchange. So India has been a democratic responsible power. India has been a democratic responsible and largest federal democracy. It should influence the Myanmar's democratic resistance. So democratic factions that are there, India should empower them. India should try to mediate peace between the democratic forces and the military, and a kind of a compromise situation needs to be brought. The next thing is India should promote the spirit of federal cooperation. Fine. Now, when we talk about India, India has depicted excellent federal cooperation in the domestic level. So we need to teach it to the Myanmar also. Immediately, we need to halt the weapon sales. Now, any weapon sales that is going to Myanmar should stop, because in the past, it has been seen that many vacuum bombs, etc., for example, has been used by Myanmar against the people. So moral burden will fall on India if this weapon sale is going on and if these weapons are being used against the protesters. So weapon sale needs to be stopped. Also, it has been found that India has sold Navy grade diesel to Myanmar's UNTA, okay, which should be stopped. Secondly, cross-border humanitarian corridors should be opened. So if you see that what has happened as military takeover has happened and as atrocities are being committed, particularly on minorities, large number of them are fleeing to the neighboring countries. So basically, India should open the humanitarian corridors and should allow civilians who are fleeing from Myanmar to come in India. So next, reinstate free movement regime. So recently, Home Ministry said that it is going to fence the India-Myanmar border and it is going to suspend this free movement regime. So this article says that the free movement regime should not be stopped. Collaborate with aid networks. Okay, so humanitarian aid, medical aid, food supplies that are needed to the people who are suffering. Fine, that needs to be reinstated. That needs to be restarted. Okay, then halt detention and deportation. Halt detention and deportation. So basically, keeping principle of non-refoulement in mind, the people of Myanmar who has come to India and who are being sent, that deportation should not be there. Fine. Okay. So, and humane refugee treatment. Moving on. How can Himachal Pradesh fight against forest fires? Now, this particular article we are going to see with respect to the GS paper number 3, environment and ecology. Okay. So recently, guys, fire related incidents have been observed in Himachal Pradesh. And guys, since April 15, more than 1600 fire related incidents have been there. So when we talk about the fire incidents, so more than 1600 fire related incidents have happened. Now, why these fire incidents are erupting in Himachal Pradesh? Some problems are natural, but some causes are man-made, anthropological. Let's understand this thing. Now, when we talk about Himachal Pradesh, the makeup of forest in the Himachal Pradesh, it has changed considerably in the past few years. Makeup of the forest has changed considerably in the past few years. Let's understand this particular thing. So basically, Banj oak forest, they have been cleared to plant more chir pine forest. Now, when we talk about the chir forest, when we talk about the pine trees, Okay, these pine trees, they are basically these pine trees, fine, they have a huge commercial value. They have huge commercial value. This is the reason that the chair pine trees are being promoted, but they catch fire. Now these pine, these they are like, they are having these kind of a spikes. These spikes, they catch fire very rapidly. They catch fire very much rapidly. So therefore, they are highly flammable. Now, when we talk about the bunch oak, it retains moisture. It retains moisture, so therefore it is not that much flammable. Also, it retains water in the soil, so it enhances the water table. It is not that much flammable because of the moisture retention, but sheer pine forest, it is more flammable because it doesn't retains that much moisture, and the structure of these spike like structure of this chair pine forest also, it becomes highly flammable. Moreover guys, these particular chair pine trees, their resin is extracted, and when we talk about these particular resin, this resin also, it is very much susceptible to fire. This resin is flammable. This resin is flammable. So this is the reason that forest fire incidents have increased in Himachal Pradesh, and as I told you, more than 1600 forest fire has happened, and from 2001 to 2023, more than 957 hectare of tree cover has been lost in Himachal Pradesh because of these particular forest fires. Now, forest fires in Himachal Pradesh, when we talk about it, these forest fire incidents, they usually start in the pre-monsoon season. Pre-monsoon season. Why? Because in this pre-monsoon season, there are the dry conditions that are there. High temperature is there. High temperature, dry condition, availability of lot of dry organic and inorganic material, and at the same time what happens, there are then the human activities that lead to the start of these particular fires. For example, there are campfires which are unattended, then there are the discarded cigarettes that are often left by the tourists and travelers that are coming, and what they do, they ignite fires. They ignite fires. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now also what has happened, forest management, uh, always they have they have prioritized the commercial species such as the chair pine. So this is something which is leading to the forest fires. Now what can be way forward, what can be solutions in this particular capacity? Number one, democratization of forest management. So rather than giving the forest management to bureaucracy only or to some selected group, selected vested interest, forest management should be given to the local communities, because local communities, they have maintained a symbiotic and a very positive relation with the nature. By using their traditional knowledge, fine, they can maintain ecological balance. They can again ensure that congenial species of trees should be brought in the forest. Then diversification of forestry. So chair pine trees are need to be replaced by the oak trees, bunch oak trees. Water resource management. So check dams are to be revived. Water springs are to be revived. These water bodies, they can lead to moisture retention of the soil. And as the soil will have higher moisture retention, forest fires incidents will go down. Also, then finally, what is to be done? Financial support is to be given. So basically, 16th Finance Commission, fine, 16th Finance Commission need to ensure this thing, that basically the forested areas, states such as Himachal Pradesh, which have huge forests and which are more susceptible to the forest fires, how they are to be given support, how they are to be given support. Fine. So this is guys all about it. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to the next article. Fine. Now moving to the next article. On the Hindu Kush Himalayas snow update. So basically, guys, what has happened? So recently, it has been seen that snowfall in the Hindu Kush Himalayas were alarmingly low. Okay, which is leading to many ecological problems in the region as a whole. So we are going to study about this particular entire issue. Now, this particular article will be important for GS paper number 3, ecology, environment, disaster, and related issues. Now, when we talk about the Hindu Kush Himalayas, so here there was a report that was released by International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. So International Center for Integrated Mountain Development released a report which have said that the record low snow persistence is there in the Ganga River basin. Fine. Snow level in the Hindu Kush Himalaya is also declining. Temperature is increasing. Now, first of all, what is the snow persistence? What is the snow persistence? Snow persistence, what it refers to? It refers to the duration snow remains on the ground. Snow remains on the ground. Now, why it is important? It is important for, it is crucial for providing water to people and ecosystem through the snow melt. Fine. Now, when we talk about the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, snow melt contributes 23% of the runoff of 12 major river basins. So basically this snow melt, what it is doing, it is fueling the rivers such as Indus, rivers such as Ganga, rivers such as Indus, Ganga. Now, when we talk about the 2024 data, when we talk about 2024 data, we find that there is a lowest snow persistence in the 22 years. Lowest snow persistence in 22 years. And because of that, what will happen? Water availability will decline. Water availability will decline. Now, around the world, we find this thing. For example, in Amud area, Helmand river basins also, significant water decreases there. Now, what is the reason? What is the reason that the snow was less? Fine. Weak western disturbances. And as these western disturbances were weak, they were not able to bring a lot of moisture, and as moisture did not came, fine, snowfall was also reduced. So this is something which is leading to low snow persistence. Fine, high sea surface temperature is increasing. Fine, climate change, global temperature that are increasing, are all leading to these particular factors. So therefore, what can be way forward? What can be solutions to mitigate all these particular problems? Number one, reforestation and snow retention is to be done. Now, basically what we can do, native species should be reforested here, which can retain more snow on the ground, which can reduce the surrounding temperature, which can bring down the surrounding temperature, and as the surrounding temperature will come down, so more snow will be retained. Okay. Improved weather forecasting, so that beforehand we know such kind of things and corrective actions can be taken. Develop robust water infrastructure and policies to protect the snow receiving areas. Okay. And finally, the ultimate solution that is there is emission reduction. Till the carbon emissions will not go down, these particular problems cannot be solved comprehensively. Okay. And here now at the international platform, basically the countries should come together to find a everlasting solution of reducing the carbon emission. Then moving on, sickle cell patients need urgent access to modern medication. Now, this particular article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, health and related issues. Now, this particular article, it is actually talking about the sickle cell disease. Now, what is sickle cell disease? Sickle cell disease is a condition when the red blood cells, they turn from this round shape to crescent shaped. Now, as they turn in the crescent shape, they get coagulated with each other. And the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood goes down. Now, when we talk about the sickle cell disease, India has the second highest prevalence of sickle cell disease. We have 1 in 86 birth have the sickle cell disease, and within the India, sickle cell disease's prevalence is highest in tribal people. Now, sickle cell disease, I told you that because of sickle cell disease, oxygen carrying capacity of the blood declines, and as the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood declines, it leads to multiple issues. For example, it leads to organ damage, increased infection susceptibility, stroke, pulmonary issues. Okay. Now, what are the current treatment methodologies that we have? So hydroxyurea, it is the only disease modifying therapy that was there. Fine. Now, there are certain advancements that have come. For example, Live Gedia and Cas Givi are two life. So basically, what has happened? FDA, fine, FDA of US, it has approved the gene therapies to treat the sickle cell disease, which are based on to the CRISPR-Cas9 technology, where the gene editing can be done, and those particular genes which are responsible for the sickle cell disease, they can be rectified. So there are the gene modification, gene editing technologies by using the CRISPR-Cas9 that have been approved by US. But these particular techniques, they actually are very much expensive. They are actually very much expensive. And because of that, because of that, they are not accessible to the large number of people, not in India, but the entire world. Now, when we talk about India, even the hydroxyurea that happens to be one therapy, it remains limited to very few people. It remains limited to very few people. Now, India has initiated National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission 2023. And under this National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission 2023, what we aim? We aim to eliminate sickle cell disease by 2047. And what are the mechanisms that India is going to use here? Awareness, universal screening, universal screening, counseling, okay, central and state government collaboration. Fine. So this is something that we are going to do. Now, guys, basically this is good. Intentions are good, but the funding that is needed, fine, still happens to be a concern. Now, what are solutions in this capacity way forward? Number one, there should be see, as the part of Article 21, which talks about right to life. So as a part of Article 21 right to life, we need to ensure that there should be the universal accessibility to basic medications that are needed. And in this capacity, hydroxyurea should be made available. Then scalable solutions should be built. Scalable solutions should be built. Basically, you see that when we talk about India, we have so much of the global, in the global burden of disease, particularly for sickle cell disease, we have a huge share. So scalable solutions which can treat a lot of people, we need to work on that. And for that, multiple stakeholders, that is the government, pharmaceutical companies, civil societies, philanthropies, they need to come together. Fine. The next, community empowerment. We need to engage and empower tribal communities. Fine. With culturally sensitive interventions. Now you see this thing that often you see this thing that when we talk about the tribals, they have their own closed knowledge ecosystems, and therefore they need to be made aware with respect to the modern interventions that are there. They need to basically their attitudinal reformation, attitudinal change is to be brought so that they become more adaptive to these particular kind of interventions. And as I told you that majority of these sickle cell disease, they impact tribal communities. So specific focus on tribal people should be there. Leverage indigenous knowledge systems. Then health infrastructure as grassroots level needs to be promoted, because you see this thing that we are talking about universal screening. Now for universal screening, what we need to do? We need to build the capacity at the grassroots institutions that we have. Then next is that invest in better healthcare facilities and prioritize the sickle cell disease screening, screening. Then next, promote research and collaboration. As I told you that now there are the gene technologies, gene editing technologies by which the sickle cell disease can be treated. So we need to invest in such kind of research. Fine. Also, we need to foster global collaboration among the international organizations, academic institutions, philanthropic foundations, so that they can also work on the efficient, affordable, and scalable solutions. Then telemedicine, wearable devices, remote monitoring, such kind of a things should also be used. Such kind of a things, AI should also be used. Fine. So this is, guys, all about that what needs to be focused with respect to the treatment regimen here. I hope that all of you have understood it. Okay, guys, now please ask if you have any doubt on this thing. And one more thing is that that if you remember, I told you that I am going to include the book references also, which you can use. But you see this particular thing that book references I will be including if I will find some relevant book review coming in the newspaper or some podcast coming in the newspaper. Unnecessary book reviews I will not be including in here. Okay, so breaking the mold we have discussed already, and the book on state capacity also we have discussed. Okay, yes. Till then, okay, please ask if you have any doubt, if there is any issue. Yes, guys, please ask. Yes, guys, any question, any doubt, if you have, you may please ask. Okay, what lessons India can take from decoupling, because we are also dependent on other countries. Now, you see this thing that when we talk about the decoupling, yes, strategically it happens to be an important idea. But now, yes, India's dependence is also there on many countries, particularly on China. We have dependence for electrical equipments, we have dependence for active pharmaceutical ingredients, that is there. Now, you see, India started with the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, what we are doing? Under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, we are investing in developing our own capabilities. This is something that we are doing. But at the same time, what we can do? But at the same time, we should not go for over protectionism. We should not go for over protectionism. Fine, because ultimately that might be counterproductive for India. Okay. Yes, guys. Any other question? If you have, please ask. Okay, any other question, any other issue, if you want to raise, you may please ask. Okay, fine, guys. So that is all for today. Next class, we will be further be meeting in the next week, and we'll be taking this entire 1 week's current affairs. Thank you so much.